Hello everybody, welcome to Nostalgia Goggles. I'm Chris, also known as Retro Gaming Nerd, and welcome to another topic video. The last of the year, probably. With that being said, the topic I want to talk about is actually going to be about the new Nintendo console that's on the horizon. I really wanted to talk about the games that I wanted to see out on this console. This is the first time in my YouTube career that I've been actively doing this, that I've been able to kind of speculate on something. Normally I've been kind of playing catch-up or late, and I feel like argumentatively I'm late on this one too, but with it being on the horizon, and I believe it'll hopefully be this year or even maybe the year after. What I mean by this year is I mean 2025, because December's really the end of the year. So, either way, enough with the rambling. Here's my top 10 list of games, and or technically franchises, game franchises, Nintendo-based ones, that I'd like to see on the next Nintendo console.
Number 10, Earthbound Remake. Okay, so hear me out. The reason why this one is so low is because I know damn well Nintendo's not going to do it. I would love this to be a thing, especially since the way that I'd like them to do it is that I like them to make a remake of the game in the style based around the art that already exists for Earthbound. The clay or paper mache or whatever it is art, and those little figures are what I'd kind of love to see the Earthbound games be remade into. The art style change is definitely not my idea, but it's something that I've heard and I could not help but agree with. I don't care which Earthbound it is, from 1 to 3, it would just be absolutely cool to see a remake and acknowledgement that Earthbound exists, because goddammit Nintendo does not like to acknowledge it. Just kidding, they kind of do, because once again they do make things for Earthbound still to this day, such as Pollyanna and Pollyanna 2, and I believe in Japan there was also a celebration of Earthbound, so no matter what, I think that it'd be really cool for Earthbound to get a remake or at least something, because realistically me saying a remake I feel like is way more likely than them actually giving us Mother 3. I love to see it, but I highly doubt that it would ever happen. Number 9. With the success of Pizza Tower, Nintendo, you guys gotta step it up a little bit. A Wario platformer should be something that y'all should have been on a while ago. I absolutely get that the other ones didn't work out that well, but in reality, who cares? I think that now that we have a more successful console, it is way more possible for a Wario platformer to exist and be successful, especially with the success of Pizza Tower. Now, is that how I would want it to be? No, I think that the Wario IP should come back, but I think that a 2D platformer, they've done it so many times, so maybe coming back to 3D would be cool. To my knowledge, you've only had one, and even then, that's questionable. Not that it exists, I know that it does, it's just it was on the GameCube, and I don't know how many people played that game. I don't know how many people even know that there is a 3D Wario game out there. So with that being said, definitely release a new one. Boy, I mean, heck, if you guys ever do the NSO GameCube, maybe just release that. But either way, I think maybe with the next console coming back to Wario would be a wise decision, especially since Pizza Tower existed, meaning that we kind of can use that as a template, because Wario was kind of a weird franchise to begin with, so why not come back to it? If that's how you're gonna do a 2D platformer, kind of take that in knowledge and move on with it. Either way, Wario for the next console, I think, specifically in my opinion, a 3D one. Number 8, F-Zero. I don't really have much to say about this one, but it's been a long time coming. We haven't seen an F-Zero game, to my knowledge, since the GameCube, and even then, and you can say that the one on the Switch counts, but yeah, it is definitely a new game, but I would like to see a brand new F-Zero game, and I feel like I've heard somebody tell me before that Mario Kart is the reason why they don't do it, but F-Zero and Mario Kart give a completely different feeling, so I don't understand exactly why they just don't do a new F-Zero. I absolutely loved the GameCube version, so I would love to see something in that vein, but I don't know, I'd love to see that. I think F-Zero definitely needs to have a comeback, and it seems like Nintendo's kind of been teasing at it since NSO had the Game Boy games come to America. I mean, they were already here, but one of them wasn't. You get my point. I just think that either way, it'd just be nice to see F-Zero. Number 7. Another Mario Odyssey type game. I know that a 3D Mario is inevitable, so since it is such an inevitability, I think that if we're going to go in that route, maybe expand upon what Mario Odyssey did, because that one was a really great game, but I feel like they could have made it a little bit bigger and maybe given us more transformations and stuff. I know Nintendo doesn't like to come back to concepts, because if they did, we would have had a Galaxy 3 somewhere down the line, or a Mario Sunshine 2. But I think that Odyssey, having one game, definitely would be cool to see that concept of Cappy come back and be utilized, and maybe actually adding Luigi as a playable character with his own hat, or with something very reminiscent. I don't know. I just feel like maybe another Odyssey type game would be great, but that might just be because I absolutely love Odyssey. Who knows? Number 6, a traditional 3D Zelda game. Kind of. Zelda has been through a very interesting time of where we haven't had a traditional 3D Zelda game in such a long time, since Skyward Sword even. So it would be really nice to see one, except for the fact that I don't 100% want it to only be traditional. I think that they should definitely learn from Echoes of Wisdom, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, and other kind of games, and play with the gameplay style a little bit more, just adding traditional dungeons and the traditional stylings of what a 3D Zelda game would be. I think it's been enough time to just come back to it. You don't even have to do anything crazy. As much as I'd like something like the Echo System or something like the Sheikah Slate or yada yada to come back, it just definitely doesn't have to happen. It could be just a traditional Zelda game, and I think I'd be fine and happy with it. As long as the dungeons and stuff are fun, I wouldn't mind being able to come back to something like that. I don't miss these whatsoever. I'm not somebody that's upset with the state that Zelda's in right now, but I do think it'd be about time to see a traditional 3D Zelda game come back, because we've had a love for the 2D games on multiple occasions, and definitely the Tears games had its time to shine, but I definitely do think it's about time that we get back to 3D a little bit, to the traditional 3D. Number 5. I absolutely love and was obsessed with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, so I would definitely love to see Nintendo on their next console come back to a 3D Kirby. I'm saying a lot of 3D, but it's because Nintendo kind of sticks to their traditional 2D most of the time, and Kirby's kind of been delegated to 2D for so long that I think a 3D game would be great to come back to. The only difference between this one is that I think that they should bring back gimmicks from the older games, such as the Robobot, the Hypernova from Triple Deluxe, you know, some of those kind of concepts. I think the bigger weapons in Return to Dreamland and so on and so forth, a lot of the gimmicks I think would be cool to see come back, and I think that the 3D Kirby would focus more on that, because I think it'd be really cool to see a Robobot in 3D, or using bigger, more flourishy attacks like in the Return to Dreamland games on a 3D space. So either way, I think that another 3D's Kirby would be good, but I think it'd be cool if they added the gimmicks. Even returning the Animal Friends would be cool too for a 3D game, because once again, Kirby has been in 2D for so long. So I think that that'd definitely be nice to have a 3D game with those gimmicks. That's all I'm saying. Number 4. Animal Crossing, but more like City Folk and or New Leaf. I am not one of the people that dislikes New Horizon. I really do like New Horizon. It got us through the pandemic. It did a great job, and I still think that there is so much to be said about it. I love the customization of that game, how you're able to arrange your house how you please, and how Happy Home Designer was integrated. Beautiful stuff. But I don't know. I feel like there is something about that game that's still magical. I come back to it every now and then, but I feel like it's not the island motif that's my issue. It's just I feel like going back to a City Folk type game or a New Leaf type game would be the way to go. One of my good friends likes to bring up that minigame should return, and I think that that'd be cool, but I feel like maybe just the aesthetic of the city kind of thing would be cool to have. There was always a town that you can go into in, you know, New Leaf, and there was a city, obviously, in City Folk, and I think that that'd be great, but I feel like kind of what I'm really asking for is to kind of go back to some of the older aspects of Animal Crossing that kind of feel forgotten. I feel like adding definitely more personality in the characters, but I feel like adding more to do would be great alongside the customization and the kind of personality that came from New Horizons. But I think all in all, though, what I'm really asking for is I think maybe just more stuff to do would be the thing to ask for a new Animal Crossing. I feel like a new Animal Crossing, like 90% of this list, is inevitable. It's just, I don't know exactly where they're gonna go. New Horizon was the popular baby, so they might just do something similar to that again. but I definitely think that it would be really cool to kind of go backwards a little bit. Number 3. I have not made it clear this year that I love Fire Emblem. Nintendo is one of my favorite companies, so when I say it's one of my favorite games of all time, just if it's Nintendo, it's probably on there, right? And Fire Emblem has won me over, so I feel like I would definitely like to say that my number 3 would be a Fire Emblem game. Inevitably, we're getting one. But I think a remake would be good. Shadows of Valentia was an amazing start into the idea of remakes for Fire Emblem. With that being said, I think that they should probably go for the next one. It's one that's been rumored forever, so I don't know exactly what's going on with it, but it was the Genealogy of the Holy War, which was one of those games that was rumored, and I think that that would be really cool because for somebody like me that have only played the games that have come to America, I think that having an older game be remade that we've never got would be cool. Because like Shadows of Valentia, like Shadow Dragon, we haven't had those before, and that's what made them interesting. Shadow Dragon has had enough remakes, by the way. With that being said, if that's not what you would do, if that's not what your taste is, I think the Radiant series would be another way to go for the remakes. Those games go for a lot of money, and according to a lot of people that I talk to, and according to a lot of people in general, those are some of the best. So I think that maybe giving that one a remake and kind of combining the two games, I guess that might be the way to do it. The problem is I haven't played those, right? Because I haven't had a way to officially play them. So either or, they'd be great for me to see a remake of. Number 2. Please give me a 3D Donkey Kong. I am not the biggest fan of Donkey Kong 64, and with that being the last Donkey Kong that was in 3D, to my knowledge, I feel like you can go nothing but up, right? There's no other place but up after that one. It's not a bad game. It's not a bad game. It is not a bad game. People will say it's a bad game. I just think it's a collectathon-y mess, and I feel like with the time that has passed, knowing that I can't complain about it being a collectathon-y mess, I feel like you could definitely... This isn't a review of Donkey Kong 64. What I'm really trying to say is that with Donkey Kong 64 being the last 3D Donkey Kong game, I think that it's about time that we give it another stab. And I think that a 3D Donkey Kong game would be great because, I don't know, I just think that Donkey Kong would be great in a 3D space. Who knows? I could absolutely be wrong. But I feel like out of all the Hail Marys, I feel like this is the most possible. I feel like Nintendo would definitely make a 3D Donkey Kong game. I feel like it's kind of inevitable. I feel like it's kind of in the cards as well with the new Nintendo Land Donkey Kong area. You're telling me that they're not going to try something crazy with the new console? Let's go. Let's try it. So... Number 1, Kid Icarus. Okay, so the reason why I'm saying Kid Icarus is because Kid Icarus Uprising was one of my favorite games on the Nintendo 3DS, and it was also one of the most surprising games on the Nintendo 3DS, being one of those video games that reinvented the franchise completely. There was 3 games altogether, including Uprising. There was 2, one for the NES and one for the Game Boy, and the Game Boy kind of stuck close to the NES version, where this one just kind of did its own thing, and I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I definitely would love to see more of what that game gave. It left me wanting more because it did a really good job as a game. Now, the gameplay wasn't all there. I'm making a video on it. We'll talk about it later, but I definitely think that now, with time passing, one, you could either port it to the new console because they've ported DS games before. I know that there would be issues or whatever, but you could do it. I feel like you can do it. It wouldn't be that big of an issue. Once again, we'll talk more about that in the actual episode when I talk about it. It's happening next year, trust me. But if that's not possible, maybe just make another one in that vein. I think that it did such a good job from comedy to gameplay to characterization to just story to everything that it made me want more. Do I know if it's possible? No. But who knows? I would have never thought that Kid Icarus period would have gotten a game in the modern day. So I just gotta say that Kid Icarus would be the one that I want to see the most because there's that whole potential of doing so much more. It could even be the Norse pantheon this time, pulling a God of War a little bit, because they kind of did go as far as I think they could with Uprising. But who knows, because I don't know everything about the Greek pantheon either, and even then they didn't follow that one 100% in that game, so who knows. I think that Kid Icarus, a new one, would be the right way to go. I think that that'd be great, and I think that that should be the decision that is going. And I think that it just would be really cool to see another Kid Icarus game in the vein of Uprising, because that game just was great. So, with that being said...
So, that was my list of the video games and or video game franchises that I'd like to see on the next Nintendo console. I understand that I didn't mention things like, Mario Kart or, Splatoon or even Smash Bros., but I feel like those are so inevitable that they're just gonna inevitably coming to the console, and I feel like there's no point in saying it. Heck, there's even a rumor that it's gonna be a launch title. At least Mario Kart will be. That'll be a surprise if that's true. But with that being said though, what is the games or game franchises that you would like to see on the next Nintendo console? It's really up to you. There's no real rules. You can say Marvel Rivals or whatever. We're assuming that the console's going to be more powerful, so anything is fair game, and I'd love to see your comments in the comment section below.